Hey guys, this is Dawn. Welcome back to Gulf Coast October. In this series, I've been reading my book, Enchanted in Base 8 Yaya. Gotta get that thumbnail in there. And today's the last day, so if you have made it this far and you have listened to every single chapter of this book, thank you so much. Today we're going to read chapters 14 and 15. They are shorter chapters, so if you want to hang out while I read the last two chapters of my book, made it this far, might as well. Chapter 14, Blood-Flavored Cotton Candy and Little Praying Alligators. It was a rainy Friday afternoon. I was filling in for Pogo Stick in the antique store, and it was slow that day, but I'd used every free minute after Lauren had left to make my recycled arrangements, so I had plenty of new merchandise. I spent the morning arranging my new booth. Most of the latest arrangements had cattails, and I'd gone a little bit nuts with the frosty pink nail polish and the cockle shells. My time as a featured artist was almost up, and I had now graduated to an independent vendor. My booth was small, but perfect for the amount of space I needed. I no longer had a window space, which was good because the sun had dried things out and faded their color. So much so that I didn't restock most of my old items. This space, in between two large booths, was better. It was only 5 by 5 and already lined on three sides with unfinished solid oak shelves, 6 feet tall each. I slid a small table into the space to keep the display at a good viewing range. By the time I was done, every inch was filled with the funkiest bouquets you'd ever seen in a small town. I sat at the counter messing around with the old ones, removing oyster shells from cans and vases, pouring sand and shells into reusable bags, and untying ribbons and twine to reuse it all later. I saw a blur run past the westmost window, then the next window, and I could make out 2 people hunched under an umbrella. The old heavy door opened. They both stepped in backwards to disguise their identity. I knew better than to be scared. Good for me, they turned around one at a time and yelled, "Surprise!" It was Claire and Nan. "Nan, oh my goodness, I'm so happy to see you in my neck of the woods. Look at you, girl, your arm is all better. Show me what you have here. I want to see these. What are they called?" Claire and I looked at each other and we shrugged. We walked over to the table and shelves. The ladies oohed and awed, even though Claire had seen me make most of them. "Y'all, I have to close tonight. Tiki's in Florida and I'm filling in for someone else as it is." "We brought lunch," Claire said. "Egg salad on rye, and Nan made electrolyte spritzers." "Ooh, that sounds great. What brings you to town anyway?" "I felt bad I had to miss Bird's funeral." "Oh, Nan, I forgot to tell you." "No, it's totally fine. Claire told me about it, but I couldn't make it. I'm here now. I thought we could do a blessing on the house." "Are you staying the night?" "Yes, ma'am. Do you work tomorrow?" "Yeah, but I don't come in till noon, and we close at 5. "What about tonight?" "Even later, 8. "We could still come over tonight," Claire interrupted, and we all agreed. We ate sandwiches and drank our fancy drinks. Then the ladies headed out. It continued to pour down rain until just before I closed and locked up. Thankfully, the sky stayed clear enough for me to do my evening dog walk. Okie Doke got to take off like a maniac down the beach. She ran a good quarter of a mile and back. She barked at some birds and tried to catch a dead catfish, which was all good and fun, but it was time to head back. Not long after we got home, I could hear another line of thunderstorms making their way in. I busied myself tidying up and giving the place low-light ambiance with candles and small lamps. I made a silly snack of deli cookies on a tray with a bowl of milk in the middle and placed it in the center of the table. I looked around feeling proud when I heard, simultaneously, 2 loud sounds that I was not expecting. One was a loud crash of thunder directly over the house, loud enough to make me scream. The second was the doorbell. I'd never heard it before, and it gave me a start just as much as the thunder. It was in the tone of the first 3 notes of Mary Had a Little Lamb, but just the Mary Had part. Ding, ding, dong. I could see Claire and Nan through the window in the door, laughing hysterically. The doorbell rang again. Ding, ding, dong. I ducked and looked around as I answered. "Do you like it?" Claire asked before she passed through the frame. "I don't know yet. It's loud. I thought it was broken, but I get the feeling y'all fixed it while I was at work today." "You bet we did. Joe Al helped." I started to close the door after they entered and was pleasantly surprised by a third visitor. It was Mary. "Well, now that's a surprise. Good thing I made cookies." "Sounds perfect," Mary said. I pulled a piano chair across the room to the table, and we all sat around dunking sugar cookies and talking about how we were going to bless the house. It was so great to hear Mary and Nan talk shop. They both had so much knowledge about gardening and alchemy, but they disagreed on whether or not burning sage often was a good spiritual practice. Nan and Claire were all for it. Mary had a different view on it. Saging is good for an occasional clearing when earthbounds clutter the space, but shouldn't be used by people who aren't already centered. they can become ill and need care. They may be misdiagnosed, even medicated for mental illness if it's used incorrectly. Nan wasn't mad, just stating her case. Not true at all. A space should be saged often, every day if needed. It's good for the lungs, as well as the energy. If a person becomes ill, it's their body trying to purge dark energy. I agree, but too much too fast can have consequences. What about people with asthma? Asthma is a dark spirit. Claire interrupted. Can we all just agree that Dearie could use us to come in and burn sage in her home tonight? Everyone agreed. Nan began walking through the house with an abalone shell and a bundle of lit sage. It smoked like a giant cigar. She held the bundle in her hand and traced the outline in the air around the doors and the windows as she went. She completed the downstairs and was making her way upstairs when I decided to ask what the sage actually does. Mary answered. The idea is it scares away spirits so they won't ever come back. I thought a moment about what that meant before I panicked and started yelling. No, stop! I ran up the stairs and snatched the herbs away from Nan, ran back downstairs to the sink, turned on the water. It hissed and sizzled in protest. I was crying and fearful. The women stood around me concerned, but waited for me to explain. Bird, I said. Bird. Bird? Mary asked. Oh, that's right, Claire said. We made our way back to the table and we sat down. Yes, he visits me. I still don't understand how it works. It's like a dream, but there's always some physical sign of it the next day. Sometimes a window is open or a bowl is left out. Sometimes I'm in a different room altogether, but he only shows up after I've gone to bed. I feel like one day he'll actually manifest like a real ghost. Well, it sounds like you know best in this case, Mary said, but Nan tried to protest. Sage will only get rid of evil energies. No, it won't. The phone rang and we all jumped. I was overwhelmed, so Claire shushed the ladies and went back to the kitchen to answer it. The bickering went soft, then subsided. Hello, Lullaman residence, she playfully answered. Yes, but she's busy. May I take a message? She turned around and spoke softer. Oh, that's terrible. I'm so sorry. Yes, I will let her know. No, actually, thank you. All right, bye-bye. Who is that? I asked. Okie Doke perked up and started growling. Claire turned to face me, her hands folded over her chest, and took a step in our direction. Just as she did, the kitchen window shattered, and a ball of fire whizzed past the back of her head, barely missing her, and shattered against the old brick fireplace. Nan took off out the back door, chasing a shadow in the dark, and Okie Doke ran to assist her. Claire guided me to safety through the front of the house, and Mary stayed back to extinguish any flames that had been set. What's going on? I yelled. Don't worry about it just yet. It hit the fireplace. What was that? A Molotov cocktail, a poorly made one. Mary's got it taken care of. Let's just go sit out here. Who would do that? Just then I saw something I recognized, tearing through the neighbor's yard to escape. It was Floyd. I saw Wendy Weather, wild-eyed with her fire-red hair bouncing right along with the rest of her. She looked right at me, furious, and flipped me the bird before hitting the gas and making traction to the road. She couldn't get out the way she had come in because of the cutlass parked in the path, which she hadn't counted on. That means she'd been hiding out in the backyard for a while. Give me the keys, Mary yelled, as she and Nan came running up the patio steps from the side yard. I pointed to the hooks by the door. Before I could think, they were in my truck and chasing Floyd. I got up to check the damage and find my dog. The damage was minimal, but the dog was gone. I called my brother. He wasn't even drunk when he answered. They're all headed in that direction. I have a crazy feeling that Okie Doke is trying to chase her down too. Will you please keep an eye out? Please. Let me see what I can do. Thank you. We walked around, looking and yelling for the dog for a bit before hearing a mess of noise that was coming down the road. It was Floyd. Wendy was swerving all over the road. As she drove past us, she tried for a second cocktail, but it landed in the ditch and extinguished itself. After that went my brother, honking like crazy, and, to my relief, had 3 dogs barking out the window. But he didn't stop. He was chasing Floyd. And last but not least went my old beat-up pickup truck, occupied with 2 southern garden witches bickering in hot pursuit as well. Well, I don't want to miss this. Claire got up to fetch her keys, and I ran up the stairs. Where are you going now? She hollered. I gotta get Rudy, I hollered back. She tossed her hands in the air and yelled at me to come on. I grabbed the whole cage. Claire was revving the engine when I made it to the car. What if someone tries to burn down the house while we're gone? I carefully put Rudy in the back. Soon enough, we were part of the chase, going 60 miles an hour down the bumpy beach road. I wanted to know who had called just before the excitement started. I was confused and had to tune it out. I stared out of the passenger window, looking at the ground beneath us and focusing on the seams of the road. Ba-bump, 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 ba-bump was the sound it made. Everything seemed silent and safe for a moment before Claire gave a quick swerve, just missing a carcass in the road. I made brief eye contact with the dead, scrambled creature before it was nothing more than a speck in the rear view. "I think that was a fox," I said. "Poor thing. I bet that bitch hit him." "Where is she going?" "She's lost. She's not from here." "Oh, right. Well, we're about to run out of road. We're almost to the oyster piles." "Is this where you stayed?" "Yep. I wasn't planning on coming back this fast either." We both laughed but got somber quick as everyone came to a stop and Claire had to slam on her brakes. Rudy's cage flew forward, hitting the back of my seat, falling on its side. Upon quick inspection, he seemed annoyed but all right. What I didn't notice was that the little wire door had popped open. We had windy weather surrounded. I could see the mounds of oyster shells in the swamplands behind her. She was trying to turn around when Floyd got stuck on the cement barrier between the road and the brackish sand. The tires spun, and the engine squealed as she furiously tried to get free, but it was no use. We all got out of our vehicles and congregated at a safe distance. She rummaged around with something next to her before getting out of the truck. She had another one of those damn bottles in her hand and was trying to light it. It wasn't working. She became angry and started shaking it. We all walked backwards as she walked towards us. She tried to light it again and again to no avail. She shook it some more. Third time's a charm. When she flicked the lighter, a huge flame lit up the space all along the front of her. She was on fire. We tried to approach her, but she ran. "She's going to be killed," Nan yelled. We all stopped except the dogs. They chased her, barking. All the while she was running, stumbling, and swatting at the flames, which only got bigger. She quickly ended up in the sinking bog. The flames were quenched, but she wasn't out of danger. She made it to the first oyster mound. I retrieved the folding chair so I could sit down. My brother started yelling. "It's a gator! Look!" Sure enough, creeping along only feet from Wendy, were two bright red shining coins in the reflection of everyone's headlights. She slowly climbed to the top of the mound. She stumbled a bit before being able to stand up straight. She looked down in fear, realizing the reptile was slowly making his way to her. She lost her balance and fell forward. There was no saving her after that. Out of all of us, my brother was the only one that couldn't watch. I looked down by my feet and saw Rudy strutting around trying to get my attention. I put him on my shoulder. My brother spoke. "I can't handle this. I'm pretty sure some part of this can get pinned on me. Besides, I left Nikki passed out drunk on the back porch. I wasn't here. Got it? I wasn't here." Frank looked around at everyone to make sure we were all in agreement. Everyone nodded. Claire gave a salute, and my brother left. The gator was upright against the mound. The last part of Wendy to disappear was her hair. As red as ever, it was a huge stringy mass hanging out of the alligator's open mouth like blood-flavored cotton candy. The monster turned slightly, showing his underside. His front claws clapped together for a moment just before sliding down into the water. I assumed he was struggling to swallow her. We were all exhausted. Claire and Nan left together. Okey-doke, Rudy and Mary piled up in my truck. I threw my folding chair in the back and climbed in. The drive to Mary's was almost silent. Just before I got out, I asked her if she was all right. "Oh, I've seen some crazy things. The thing about crazy things is you never know when they will happen. Are you all right?" "I think so. Thank you for coming over tonight. I'm sorry you and Nan didn't hit it off, but I was thankful for a different perspective." "Are you kidding? Nan's great. That's just shop talk, really. By the way, did it look to you like that alligator was praying right before he laid back down?" Well, I hope not." I waited for her to go back inside before I left. Driving home, I wondered who all would be at Mass in the morning. I thought about the praying alligator. Maybe he was a she. And maybe she was the magical wishing alligator. To my surprise, Nan and Claire were at my house when I got home. No one spoke until after I put the bird up. The ladies came upstairs, sat on the bed, and waited for me to settle. "I'm all right. What's up?" "The phone call earlier. Dearie, honey, I'm sorry. It's Pauline." "She's dead too, isn't she?" I was sad, but I wasn't shocked. I didn't know what to feel. Thankfully, I had sisters here who wrapped their arms around me until I fell asleep and stayed after that. I slept hard for a while. Then I heard a familiar sound, the shake, shake, shake sound of broken glass, then the tapping. I don't remember getting up. I was instantly standing by the window. "What are y'all doing in my bed?" he laughed. They were sound asleep, protecting an empty spot in the middle of the bed. "I'm sorry about your sister." "It's not your fault. We weren't close for a reason." "Is she there? Is she on the other side?" "Maybe she will be, but not yet. I know someone who is here, though." "She just got here this morning. You'll only see her for a moment. Someone in charge said it was okay considering the week you've had." Pauline manifested before me, first in the form of ripples in the air. Then she became clearer. She looked young. Her hair was long and black and her skin was smooth and tight. She smiled at me, looked up to her left, agreed to something, and disappeared. Thank you, Bird, thank you. How come she didn't look confused like you did? She knew it was her time. She was ready. Oh, I gotta go now, hun. This was more of an errand. I slept hard. I woke to the smell of bacon and coffee and the sound of women talking and laughing. They got quiet and gave me soft eyes when I sat at the table. I was smiling, though. Bird visited me last night. He brought my friend Pauline. I only saw her for a second, but she looked fantastic. She had no problems crossing over. The women were glad to hear it. Then they both looked at me with one raised eyebrow. They didn't have to ask. I knew they wanted to know if I saw Wendy. She's not there yet. She may never be. So, Nan, you going back today? Are we going to Mass? I'd love to go to Mass. I'm staying through the week. I want to come to your bookmaking class tomorrow. That's really cool, but why are you staying all week? There's a circus tent over my house. Huh? Termites. Oh, yikes. I saw a familiar face at Mass that morning. It was Frank's. I didn't poke fun. I let him do his thing. I figured he needed to make some type of reconciliation to feel straight after what had happened the night before. It wasn't his fault, but it was personal, so I left him alone. It turned out to be a beautiful day. The antique store was busy. I sold 7 arrangements, the most I'd ever sold in a single day. I had been kicking around the idea for wind chimes, so I beachcombed for driftwood after work with Okie Doke. However, later that evening, while trying to scrape a hole through a hunk of wood with a pocket knife, I found myself whittling the whole thing into a shape instead. A little here and a little there. By the time I was done, I'd carved a small statue. I quite liked it. I carved another one, and then I carved a third one before deciding to paint them and decorate them with glitter and charms. When I was done, I had 3 of the cutest little praying alligators you ever saw. Chapter 15. Goodbye for now. I got to the hole before 7. Joe, Al, and June were flirting again. I ordered a cup of unleaded with hazel creamer. June started asking me questions about Lauren, just as Nan and Claire came in. June was trying to convince me that men give up when women play hard to get. I wasn't playing hard to get. I genuinely didn't want to be in a relationship. Too bad, Joe, Al said, winking at June. I sat in Bird's old spot, and Claire slid into the booth next to me where I usually sat. My grandson has never let a woman pin him down. I wasn't too thrilled when I saw y'all together. Anyway, he's not moving to Bay St. Yaya after all. Things are run a bit differently on the south side of the Mississippi. He wants to stay where he's established his respect. Mary popped in long enough to order some cake to go. June took a break and came to Mass with us. After that, I laid low until it was time for the memory book group at the Seagull Wing. To my honor, everyone showed up, even Frank and Nikki. Joe, Al, and June worked on their book together. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you've all had a good week. I have some special visitors today. I introduced my family, and as I did, they raised their hands accordingly. Some of y'all know Claire, and that's Nan standing next to her. She's a fantastic herbalist visiting us this week from Anna Branch, Louisiana. Then Frank. Say hi, Frank. To which the whole room replied, Hi, Frank. This made him blush, but he said hello and bowed his head. Nikki is his forever friend, and that is Mary. She can grow tomatoes the size of cantaloupes, and cantaloupes the size of watermelons. Too bad her watermelons never seem to grow bigger than tomatoes. Ironic for the area, but hey. And June over there is the best baker on the coast. She runs the dancing pastry. Diamond sat at the table and smiled. What about me? Joelle asked. Oh, right. But you're just my faithful handyman. Just kidding. That is Joe Aloysius. He can fix anything except a broken heart. But maybe. Just as I began the class, Father Fourleaf joined us too. Everybody already knew Father because he visited the home regularly. He walked around the room saying hello and admiring people's creations. The main gang gathered around Diamond to work on their own books. It was a fantastic time, and I knew that I was living my purpose. My attention shifted to each of those wonderful people, a group of everyday ordinary folks living different lives. We had something in common, though. We were at a place in our lives where we were the most centered and most mature that we'd ever been. I trusted that the company I kept would let me follow my path and intuition as my own. I was happy to imagine great things in their journey as well. I stared off into space and imagined all of my guides and my loved ones who had passed. They were right here with us. I was blessed indeed. Later that evening, I was at Claire's, sorting supplies, when she broke the expected news. It was time for her to be moving on. Her current house was ready for new tenants. One of her rentals in Alabama was in dire need of repair. We all helped her pack throughout the rest of the week. Nan left on Friday. By Saturday, Claire was on her way out as well. She had a small trailer hitched to the Cutlass. Mary, Joe Al, June, and I saw her off from the driveway. I was sad, but I was okay. I knew she moved around a lot, and I wondered who she would rescue next. I knew that chances were I would meet them someday. June and Joe Al strolled off hand in hand. Mary stood next to me and held my hand as we watched our dear friend drive off toward the next chapter in her life. Just before she turned the highway, we made eye contact through the side mirror. Her eyes were different. So was her hair. She smiled, and I saw that her teeth seemed sharp like the day we met. Mary and I looked at each other with our mouths wide open. Claire's the beldam! I knew it! I had the rest of the day off, and I planned on laying around the house. Instead, we all congregated back at the diner. We were having cake and coffee when Joe Owl tapped his spoon to his cup to get everyone's attention. He climbed onto the table, got on one knee, and pulled a small square box out of his pocket. We all erupted into joyful noises, which got June's attention, and she rushed back into the dining area from the kitchen. She smiled and turned red, swatting at him with her washcloth. June Petunia Thibodeau, will you do me the honor and becoming my wife? Everyone cheered. Pineapple root beer floaties on the house, I yelled. I'll even make 'em myself. Life was good. I was safe. I was happy. I had everything and everyone I needed. The end. For now. And that is the end of this little book. Thank you. If you made it this far, man, I tell you what. Thank you. If you ever think that you can try to write a book and you're not sure, I mean, this book came out wonky, but I did it. I did it. And I think other people can do it too. It's not easy. It took me a while, but I'm still proud of it. And I really hope you enjoyed it. Be blessed. Be a blessing. Blessed be. Bye. And we all sat around drinking sugar cookies and I saw him. There's a second. She's going to be killed again. I made a I looked and looked around as I answered. What a surprise. I knew better. Ding, ding, dong. And I got to tell you, I'm going to miss seeing you around. But hey, you can always start over from the very beginning and watch all the way through. Again, you could do it in one day if you're that bored. You could listen to me read this book all day.